In today's video, I'm sharing some vintage shabby chic Christmas ornaments as part of my Christmas in July series. Welcome to Creative by Nature, DIY and Decor. My name is Donna. So for the first DIY, you are going to need some vintage lace. I picked mine up from the thrift store. You will need 3 assorted sizes and feel free to use any colors you'd like. I chose white for my project. You're going to also need a needle and some thread that matches the color of the lace you're using. To start off, I am going to tie off the string onto my lace. I tied a knot and then I trimmed off the excess, and now I'm going to be doing a running stitch along the edge of the lace. And as you go along, you will be pulling the thread tight as we are creating a ruffle. So you're going to want to continue to do your stitch and pull, and you will continue to do this until you come all the way back around and form a circle. Trim off the excess lace and then you can finish some stitching as needed, and then also stitch your circle closed. Don't forget to tie a knot so this doesn't unravel. Once your string is knotted off, you can trim off the excess, and then you're going to want to create 2 other sizes. So I also have these pieces of cardstock that are in white that are the same size as my lace circles, and I'm going to be gluing those using some hot glue on top of each other. And in case you haven't guessed, yes, we are creating a snowman. So now I am going to figure out my placement for my lace circles, and then using some hot glue, I'll be adhering those to the cardstock pieces that we had cut out. I used my die cutting machine to cut out these circles, but you could also trace around a circle and hand cut them. Once you have all your lace circles put into place, you can now start to decorate. So here I am going to be using some flat back pearls, and I've got them in cream and a charcoal color, but I end up changing this out. So I am going to be showing that to you a little bit later, but I just wanted to first show you the process. So I'm using 3 of the larger pearls as buttons, and then I'm going to be using 2 of the dark charcoal as the eyes. And I'm just using hot glue to adhere these pieces. So I really like the simplicity of the pearls, but feel free to dive into your stash of supplies, use buttons or flowers, use whatever you have. So now I am going to be creating a nose by cutting out a little tiny triangle out of some felt. Again, just dive into your stash to see what you have in your supplies. Next, I'm going to be using this pretty white lace trim that I picked up from a store called Dollarama, and I'm just going to be making a simple little bow. You could use any other trim that you have on hand. This, again, is up to you on what you have in your stash. So now I made this cute little bow, and I'm going to use some hot glue, and I'm going to pin it just at the neck. You could create a scarf instead, but I thought to stick with that kind of pretty vintage shabby chic look, I thought a bow would work. And you could do this in a different color as well. And using the same lace, I am going to be creating a loop and attach that to the back side of the snowman's head to create my hanger, just as shown. Okay, so I wasn't satisfied with the color of the pearls that I used, so I switched it out for these pretty peachy colored pearls. I removed the other pearls off. I was able to cut them off, and now adding those really pretty peachy colored pearls and also a peachy colored nose, and I am just loving the way this looks so much better. It definitely has more of a shabby chic look. Okay, I think this snowman is adorable. I would love to know what you think of this little guy. I have not seen anything like it. I just think he is going to be perfect on a vintage shabby chic Christmas tree. Okay, so for our next DIY, you are going to want to dive into that stash of ribbons and lace trim, along with some pretty yarns, and we are going to be cutting some lengths of it. As you can see, I'm folding it over my hand as I am going to be creating a beautiful shabby chic tassel. So I'm just going through all my lace and trims. I've got a beautiful selection with creams and this pretty peachy kind of dusty rose color, along with a little bit of a vintage white. And as you can see, I've got them all laid out. So I'm just going to kind of mix up all my colors and textures, as you can see here, by laying them out flat. If any of the pieces have got some unraveling, I just went and tied a knot at the end, and then I just continued to lay all my pieces out. Some of my ribbons had a pretty pattern on the front, so I made sure that was facing down. Then using a piece of string, I placed that in the middle, fold all my lace and trims over, as you can see here. And before I tie my bundle together, I'm just making a few adjustments to make sure I have the look I want. I am also pulling some of my strands out and layering them a little bit differently, just so that the different textures are showing the way I like. Once you have the look that you like, you can then tie your string off by using a knot. That way here, it'll prevent your pieces from falling apart. Before moving on to the next step, I have dug into my stash and I got out this pretty wood pot, and I'm going to be giving it a coat of this champagne gold shimmery paint, and I'm going to be giving it 2 to 3 coats. This is one of my favorite paints that I use at Christmas. I love it. It's put out by Deco Art. I will have the link to it down below for you. I think it's just such a gorgeous, pretty vintage gold shimmer. So once your pot is dry, you are going to then just trim off the excess string on the top there. And then using another piece of string, I'm just going to tie it around the top of our trim gather as shown here. And that will just help keep them clustered together for our next step. So now I'm going to be using my hot glue, and I'm placing a generous amount on the inside of the pot, then placing our trim cluster inside. I'm just using my scissors just to kind of poke it in to make sure it all stays in place. And then I am going to cut through that string that we used to put our cluster together. We don't need that part anymore. That will allow our tassel to flow freely. Now I'm just going to trim off the ends, as some of them were a little bit too long for my liking. This part is optional. You can make all your trims as long or as short as desired. Now to create our hanger, again, I'm using this beautiful lace trim, forming a loop, tying a knot, trimming off the excess, then using a good amount of glue on the top or bottom of our pot, and then placing that knot into the glue. Allow that to set. Once set, you can then start to decorate. I went into my stash and I found some faux greenery along with some paper flowers, and I'm just going to trim everything down to size. This particular greenery is from a pick, and it has a really pretty vintage gold color on the tips. I'm just using some hot glue to apply it to where our knot is from our hanger. And I'm just going to decorate that part to give it a really pretty shabby chic vintage look. So I'm just going to continue to layer my pieces around that knot to camouflage it. I had these paper flowers that I picked up from a store called Dollarama here in Canada, but I have seen stuff similar in Dollar Tree and also at Michael's or other craft stores. You could use some faux silk flowers as well. Again, I just encourage you to go into your stash to see what you have. So I'm just going to continue to add my flowers, and then I am going to add this beautiful sparkly evergreen. I love this stuff. I believe I picked it up from Dollar Tree last year. I'm not 100% sure. It's from my stash, so I can't remember where I got everything, but I just really love the look of it. It just adds such a pretty sparkle. Another lovely added touch would be buttons and faux pearls. I think this is absolutely gorgeous. I am so excited to make some more of these. I think it's going to be so beautiful on a very vintage, shabby chic, romantic Christmas tree. So now I dove into my stash of vintage doilies and I found this nice shaped and pattern, and I'm also going to be using some cotton fabric in white that matches my doily, and I'm cutting out just a rough circle, and this is what we'll be using for our next DIY. So I'm just going to layer the pieces, and then I'm going to just continue to cut the fabric down until it's roughly the same size as the doily. So if you are at all interested, I do have a playlist of all my Christmas in July videos for you all. I've got that link down below in my description box. Next, you are going to need needle and some sturdy thread. And again, I'm going to be doing a running stitch along the edge of my cotton fabric. So you'll want to pull gently enough just to bring your thread through, but I'm not going to pull it completely tight once I get around to the start. I want enough room so I can add some fiber fill. I have done a pumpkin in this version as well. I'll link that below for you as well in case you want to check it out. So once you've added the fiber fill, you can pull your string tight and then tie it off with a knot. So now you can place your puff down in the middle of your doily. And now I'm going to again use that beautiful lace trim that I picked up from Dollarama. I'm creating a loop and tying a knot. I'm going to use this as my hanger. So I'm going to generously apply some glue in the middle of our fabric puff and put the knot in the middle as shown. Allow that to set and then place it back in the middle of your doily. Again, you're going to need a needle and a thread. And then you are going to want to start doing a running stitch along the edge of your doily. Here I am just going to knot it off as I don't want my string to come loose. And then I'll start to do my running stitch along the edge of the doily. I love using vintage doilies in my crafts. I have a lot from my grandma, but you can find these at the thrift stores as well. So check out those stores. So once you come to the end, you're going to place your puff back in the middle and then pull the strings tight so the doily gathers around your fabric puff. All right, so now we can start to decorate. I decided that I wanted some loopy bows at the top of our doily. I'm just going to add several loops to the bow and add a few different tails, and then I'm just going to use a wire to tie it off in the middle. I'm going to create 2 bows and I'm gluing them to the top portion of our doily. Once you have your pretty bows in place, you can then dive into your stash and dig out those flowers again along with your faux greenery and trim them down and put them into place in around the bow. This has got such a beautiful and romantic look. I am really loving this so far. So I'm just going to continue to layer my flowers. Some of these flowers actually have a touch of a vintage gold on the tips of them, which I thought was a really pretty touch. Here I'm just using that glittered faux greenery again. Again, it's just such a pretty faux greenery. I really like it. And I'm pretty sure I got it from Dollar Tree, or it might have been Michael's. I can't remember 100%. Here is our beautiful vintage doily that's got a gorgeous shabby chic look. Oh, seriously, I am so in love with this. As always, I love to know which project was your favorite by leaving me a comment down below. For more inspiration, you can check out this video here to the right. I would love for you to subscribe and tap on the all button to be notified when I upload my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.